Hi everyone, and welcome to the Spiritual Business Review and Recap edition of the workshops that I've been bringing you, or the little Facebook Live events that we've shared every Saturday pretty much for the past 10 weeks right here on the CACR page. So first of all, I'd like to welcome you all here and to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Susan Dintino, and since 2004, I have been in this business full time. I have been a member, very proud member of Doreen Virtue's staff, so I help train angel therapy practitioners, I help train AIs, certified angel card readers, and I've taken just about all of Doreen's certification courses as well. So I really feel like so much of what I've learned these past, 13 years can really assist you in growing your business, and maybe some of the pitfalls I've had will assist you in avoiding those pitfalls. In addition to doing that, I also have published a book with Hay House, I'm proud to say, and the name of the book is Songs of My Life, Slightly Out of Tune. So as the name would suggest, it's a humorous approach to all of the different lessons I learned throughout my life, and I use song titles for each chapter. So for instance, I have a chapter about my marriage that's called We've Only Just Begun Again. So for any of you that remembered years ago Fractured Fairy Tales, the cartoon, it's kind of like that. It's a take on songs with some of the things that I've learned again in my life, and a lot of humor in it. So right now, going into this time of year where you might be looking for a good beach read, I would recommend Songs of My Life, Slightly Out of Tune. And in addition to that, I do motivational speaking, I do readings. To learn as much as you possibly can about me up to the current moment, feel free to visit my website at SusanDintino, and that's DINTINO.com. So we are going to do a review and recap this week. So I will be looking for your questions. However, please keep in mind I do not do readings during this broadcast. This is all about answering business questions. So I would appreciate it if you just adhere to that. If you would like mini readings, I do those on my radio show, which is The Night Shift, and it's every Tuesday on W4CY.com, an internet radio station, every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So I do mini readings in addition to whatever subject I'm discussing. This week we talked all about dreams. I'm also got some great guests lined up that I'm going to be interviewing through the summer months. So tune in for that. But right now I want to talk about you and your business, and any way that I can assist you or answer questions that I will do to the best of my ability. So let's get started. So we started back with episode 1, and episode 1 was all about angel parties. And we went into a great deal about how to plan a party, how to organize a party, and I will put the links up on my fan page for all the videos. They're all up on my YouTube station, so there are specific playlists that you can take a look at to get all of the in-depth information. But one of the things that I wanted to tell you, because I know we've got people now visiting us from a couple different areas, a fairyologist area, for instance. So I want to just take a moment to discuss a little bit more about angel parties. When we talked about angel parties in the very beginning, we were very specific to the whole idea of them being angel parties. And because this is such a powerful tool that you can use to get your name out there, to get experience doing short readings so that you're going to build a client list, get people to know you, the best way to describe it is it's like a Tupperware party, only you're doing readings. And again, all the details are in that very first episode that we talked about. But in addition to doing angel parties, you can use whatever theme you would like. For instance, say you're a fairyologist and you would like to do a fairy reading, a fairy party rather. There's no reason why you can't just do whatever suits whatever you're trying to promote. okay? So we're going to go to the fairy party example. So rather than emphasizing the angelic realm, you would be emphasizing the fairy realm. And we know you'd have a really fun group of people wanting to do that type of party. And the possibilities are limitless as to how you could do this. You know, you could have a theme, maybe, you know, have one of those beautiful little fairy crowns that you can have made. And it would work the same way as an angel party. So again, all the particulars are in that episode 1 guide, but all you would do is put a little bit of a different twist to it, because now we would be talking about the fairy realm. So you could use it that way. You could also do a goddess party. Say this is really something that you're interested in. You love the goddess cards. You love that energy. I know there's many women out there at a certain age or at almost any age when they're celebrating their birthday. What a great way to do it, to do a goddess party. And again, you go through the prep that I've got over in that episode 1, except when I'm talking about angels, you would just substitute goddess. And what a great fun way that would be, because you could tell the people to maybe dress in goddess wear, and you could come in with something very flowy. And then offer goddess readings where you would pretty much focus on the one deck which really highlights that realm. So the party really is limitless as to what you can do with it. And I'm just going to mention this here because as we talk about party, I just want to emphasize, and I do talk about this in the episode as well, the big caveat here is that no liquor should be distributed in any way, shape, or form. You tell the hostess this prior to the party, and if she has any issues with it, especially if it is like a birthday celebration or something like that, you can say whatever you would like to do after is fine, but while you're there, you don't want alcohol being served. Number one, because of the energy, and you're going in there in your highest vibration, you don't want that alcohol energy in any way bringing you down. And I'm not being in judgment. I think everybody needs to make their own decision when it comes to this, but what I'm saying is you're going there as a professional, and as much as we're using the word party, and for some people that automatically means they're going to be drinking, you want to make it very clear. And I will be honest with you, it might be something that some hostesses might say, well, they're not interested, and just feel that that was a blessing for you and that it was better that you got that on the table. And I shared this when I talked in that episode about how I learned that the hard way, because I didn't stipulate that. And the one party I went to, the margarita mixer was going, and by the time I got there, some of the people were kind of feeling okay. And I learned a lot at that party, because a few of the people, especially one gentleman, was a little bit in the cups, as they would say, and he got aggressive during the reading. And I learned not only not to have alcohol served, I also realized during that I hadn't told anybody where the party was. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I can't let that happen again. So there's a lot of just one party. I learned so many things that I shared with you. And for me, it was a really viable way to get my name out there. I would have flyers in the back of the room. If I was doing a workshop promoting that, I'd always have my business cards with me. So again, just because that whole episode is specifically about angel parties, there's no reason why whatever you're interested in is what you would like to explore can't be utilized with just a little bit of imagination and a lot of fun. So I'm going to just stop here for a moment. Does anybody have any questions specific to angel parties? And I'm going to just take a quick look here. And I'm going to say hello to Barbara and Anna Marie from Ireland. Okay, and Amit, again, I'm not doing any readings. Just a reminder, no readings today. This is all about businesses. Okay, so Chris has said, I love these sessions, thank you. I feel overwhelmed by all the options of doing my readings, parties at stores, online. I get myself very confused. Okay, help, and she's a CICR. Good question, Chris. Okay, again, what are you? You're an intuitive. So one of the things that I think we have to do when we're starting our business is use our own intuitive ability to see what is a good fit. Now, for me, I started with the angel parties. I was doing two things at the same time. I was doing angel parties and I was teaching workshops. I've discussed this also in many of these sessions, how our biggest promotional quality is trust. And in order to build trust in our business, people have to have experience with us. So it's a very personal business. So the more people you can meet in person, the better. So I would say to you, Chris, what is it that resonates with you? Maybe going to people's houses doing these parties isn't something that you enjoy, but the idea of being at a psychic fair when you're with a lot of like-minded people, you set a table up. Psychic fairs can be very viable options because you have people that will be walking through and you will be busy because people love readings. And on that note, and I'm going to finish answering your question, Chris, but I know too, we've gone through and not talking too directly about pricing and how we get into pricing. When you're doing anything, it's very important that you check out what your colleagues are charging. For instance, if you're going to a psychic fair, find out what the other psychics are charging, because if everybody is charging, $20 and you come in at 10, first of all, you're way underselling yourself. And second of all, you'll be busier than you want to be. So you always want to make sure that you're right around where everybody else is. There might sometimes be at these psychic fairs a big name that draws a lot of people and they might be charging accordingly. But if you're just starting, you want to make sure that you're pricing so that you're attractive and yet you are compensating yourself for your time. Psychic fairs, doing psychic fairs, angel parties, fairy parties, whatever type of party you do, they can be very energy zapping. So keep that in mind if you're thinking, wow, that seems like a little bit much, $20 for 15 minutes, which, to me is definitely on the low end. I would suggest 25, but again, you have to see what the people there are charging. You will really, want to make sure that you're being compensated if you're doing one after another. And remember, have a schedule already. Whatever you're doing, even with angel parties, you want to limit the amount of people because you can be there for quite a while. So you want to have a schedule set up and make sure that you give yourself time in between readings. So say maybe you're doing 15-minute readings at a psychic fair or at an angel party, you do a 15-minute reading, and then give yourself like a 10-minute break. Believe me, you're going to need it. And know what your maximum is. Some people can read 8 hours and be able to do it really well. Other people, not so much. So really, that's all going to come with experience. So Chris, what I really think the answer to your question is what feels the best to you. The one thing I will say is that the most important thing is to get your name out there. So when we talk about doing online readings, one of the issues with being an online advisor is, again, it might be a little bit slower to build your business because most of these sites, you're one of many. So until you get a couple calls, get some really good feedback, you might be kind of slow. And there's no reason why you couldn't do something like psychic fairs and do online at the same time. It's all dependent on what appeals to you and how you want to build your business. Some people just really enjoy the in-person readings, and that's what they strive for. And in that case, what you want to do to build that business is do as much as you possibly can to meet people and get yourself out there in person. So she's an angel intuitive and a fairyologist. So Chris, I hope we've answered your question there. Okay, I'm just going to scroll through these really fast. Okay, perfect. So hello to everybody, and thank you so much for joining me. Just a brief reminder. Let's see. Thank you, Chris is saying. I had to do a price check and enjoy. Okay. Yeah, and okay, and Chris is saying that she notices that some of the psychic fairs are doing spooky stuff and that she's not doing anything like that. No, Chris, this again is so much about what you enjoy doing. The most important thing about this work is that you love it, because it's not work. When people will sometimes say to me, Susan, are you going to retire? And I'm thinking to myself, what would I retire from? This is my passion. I enjoy doing this. I don't consider this work per se. I feel like this is my purpose. This is why I'm here. So I don't look at it that way. So it's all got to do with that old heart center here, your heart chakra. What makes your heart sing? What makes you really want to go to the angel parties and do the psychic fairs? Again, personally, now these are all things that I did quite extensively in the past. Now I don't do them very often. I'll teach and maybe do readings in conjunction with that, or there's a few special functions that I will do. But for me, I now have, I'm proud to say, and I've worked hard at it. Again, I've been doing this for 13 years, that I get enough readings through my other services to be able to do one-on-ones, which I prefer, because I found that after my angel parties and doing those psychic fairs, I was like exhausted. So if I've been invited to do a fair where I'm giving a talk, I'll usually do readings around that. But again, for the most part, this for me was something that I have moved on. So you whatever you decide to do now doesn't mean you have to do it forever. So keep that in mind too. It's like, I'm just getting this visual of dipping your water in a stream to see how cold it is. You're going to dip your little toe in the water and see how you feel about it and make your decisions based on that. So, okay, so talking about angel parties again, just a reminder, Coach Susan, aka Susan Dintino here, with our weekly get-together. And this is episode 10, recapping everything that we've done. All of these specific YouTube videos are available on my YouTube station. So, just keeping that in mind. So, what did we talk about then the next week? We talked about a CACR survival kit. Now at that time I was pretty much promoting to those of you that are CACRs. Now I know, luckily and wonderfully, we've got more people joining us. So that's great, because the more we can get the word out, the better. So we talked about that type of survival kit. So you can put any name in front of that. Your spiritual business survival kit. And what are the things that I really recommended that you include? Well, if readings are going to be your thing, the first thing you want to have, even if your business is barely off the ground, is business cards. And there's some advice as to what to put on those business cards, the initials that have to be trademarked and registered, AI, Fairyologist. If you're using those certifications on your cards, check out the legality of it. Speaking of legality, that was another thing that came up about insurance. And I say it's up to you. There are some very affordable ways to get insurance. I think one in particular is through Yoga Magazine. Again, look into that. See if that resonates. I always say the best way to know you're not going to need insurance is to have it. I just feel like if it's something that you're doing, if you do things out of your home, you might want to check with your insurance agent and see what you're covered for. That, again, in the beginning, I think we're not doing that much work, so some of these things might slide. But as you get busier, especially if you're doing like healing work in addition to your readings, just make sure that you've got all your bases covered. And you might even want to take the time to consult with an attorney or something just to find out what your culpability is in case of anything. So there's release forms you can have signed and things like that. So that might be something you want to explore as part of your survival kit. Insurance. Business cards, like I said. Always have business cards. Always have them on you. That's what I am famous for. I have so many different business cards. I have business cards that promote my book. I have business cards that promote my workshops. There's times I'll identify myself as an intuitive coach, and that's not a certificate. It's just something that there's sometimes people that I feel are more comfortable with that type of intuitive advice. So I really base what cards I bring to things really on what my audience is going to be, who I'm going to be talking to. But I will say that there are so many times I'm in a plane or I'm somewhere where I'm not really thinking about business that something will come up, and of course I don't have my business cards. So make sure you've always got those cards with you. That's a big thing. No matter where you're going and how you think you might not need them, make sure you always have your business cards. I got this idea from a friend of mine who is a life coach, and one of the things that they had to work on was creating an elevator speech. And I thought that was a great idea, especially for so many of us in this business who have some issues of coming out of the closet and doing this professionally. So if you were riding in an elevator with somebody, how would you introduce yourself and what you do? And just imagine you've only got enough time when those doors open, close, boom, open. So what would that be? I guess depending how far you're going and whatever, but somebody you just strikes up a conversation. How would you identify yourself? This will be a great tool, and all of these tools that we're discussing, you really want to take some time with. This would be a great tool for you to really practice, because then it'll be a great way for you to introduce yourself. The shorter the better, short, concise, and powerful. So really take your time with it. Again, you got to use your own intuitive ability. If somebody's asks you what you do and it's dressed in a three-piece suit and you might want to say you're an intuitive coach and a motivational speaker or workshop person. You might get involved with somebody. I teach meditation quite a bit. You might get involved with somebody. If you love meditation and you do it and you know a great deal about it, that might be something that you run into a corporate person in the elevator that happens to ask you what you do, and you kick into your own intuitive guidance and you start telling them about meditation and things like that. And again, quickly, I'm a meditation facilitator. There's all different names you could use, and the key is to know who your audience is. This is always the key. If you're with a person that you could just see is wearing crystals from head to toe, you smell the angel perfume, you know this is somebody that you can say, I'm an angel intuitive certified by Doreen Virtue, and may I give you my business card. It can be quick, concise, but what you want to do is leave them thinking. And again, all the details are on that episode. We talked to you about the importance of a timer, and this comes in talking as well about the angel parties, fairy parties. You always want to have a timer with you for your readings, and you can do it in a discreet way, but especially if you're doing readings one on top of the other. And a psychic fair, I know in the beginning some of us might feel a little bit weird, like we're cutting people off, but a timer is essential. It's the only way you can stay on track. One of the little things that I've learned using a timer, I always set it maybe 1 or 2 minutes prior to when the reading should end. So in other words, if I'm doing a 15-minute reading, I will have my timer set for 13 minutes. And again, I've learned this because either I didn't have a timer and these readings went way over, especially if you're at somebody's home doing a party and you're doing 8 people and 15 turns into 20, just do the math, and you almost start running out of time. So having a timer is really important. And then, of course, whatever cards you're going to be using. If you're a card reader, do oracle readings. I have a bag with all of these things that are packed, and I have a couple favorite decks I throw in there, and usually depending on what I'm doing and what my audience is going to be. Again, if I've been invited to maybe do something like help somebody celebrate a 40th birthday and they want to do a little something like this, I'd have my goddess cards in there. So again, this is so much about you trusting your own guidance when it comes to that. So all part of the CACR survival kit. And again, that's episode 2 up on YouTube. Let's see if there's any questions on that. Okay, Pamela is asking, how do you do an elevator speech when you have different modalities and different audiences, even if you just met? This is a great question and exactly what I'm saying. You're going to have to read the person that you're speaking to. And this is going to hold true if you have all these different modalities and wherever you're going to speak. If you're doing a party, I always introduce myself before the party and I tell them pretty much everything I do based on what the subject of the party is. Now, I will do goddess parties and angel parties are pretty much the parties that I will do. So the people that are drawn to those parties are looking for something very specific. When you're doing a workshop, say you're doing a workshop, I've taught at Lilydale. Now we're talking about an elevator speech to help you really know and keep your information as concise as possible. But that being said, if you're teaching a workshop, like I said, I've taught at Lilydale, I will get up and I'll probably do a 2 or 3 minute speech about who I am, what I do. I make sure I mention my radio show, my books. I've got my children's book out, my CD. I mentioned the meditations available on my website, my Facebook page. And what I try and do is I try not to turn it into a little infomercial. So what I'll do is I'll sprinkle my promotional information throughout my talk. So I'm trying to think what I taught at Lilydale the last time. Empowering meditation, that's what I taught. And it's a meditation technique that I trademarked. So what I would do is I began by introducing myself, and again, now that's a venue that really knows Doreen Virtue and her work, so I make sure I mention her, that I'm on staff, things like that, and then, get into the subject, and maybe, a little ways through, I'll talk about my radio show, do a little bit more, talk about my full moon, new moon broadcasts on Facebook Live, promote my Facebook page. That's the way I do it. Then I'll talk about my book and maybe lighten things up with a funny example from my book. So that's really what I think is key. So when, you're doing different modalities and you're going to speak differently depending on who it is that you're talking to. So I hope, Pamela, that answers your question and that makes sense to you. So you're just going to have to really follow your guidance as to what these people are interested in. And what you want to do is, it's like when they talk about a hook in a song, that repeated, baby, you're a firework, blah, 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 So I shouldn't be singing. But anyways, that hook sticks in your mind. So what you want to do is have some hook that's going to want them to know more. That's the most important thing about an elevator speech. You want them to know more. Pique their interest in some ways. Now, that being said, the one thing I want to caution is, say you're in the elevator with somebody, and especially if you do mediumship, and I think many of us have been exposed to the Long Island medium, things like that. It's really not really of integrity to give unsolicited readings. So I actually have run into people that have done that, and it makes me very uncomfortable. I was actually at a workshop where somebody came up to me and said, I have something really important that you should know, hands me a business card and says, I'm $50 for 20 minutes or something like that. And I'm thinking, wow. Now I would never go to somebody like that for a reading, because to me, that flies in the face of what we do. So you don't want to use your hook as like telling them somebody, like you're seeing somebody stand over their shoulder. Most likely, if you see a deceased loved one with somebody, you will have an opportunity to say something. And this happened to me once in an airport, and I don't do a ton of mediumship, but this gentleman really wanted to be recognized. And I was sitting, and these two women just happened to be sharing the table with me, and the subject came up, and they brought the fact up that they had been traveling, going to this place where this deceased loved one, their father and husband, wanted to be buried. So they opened the conversation, and it was all right for me. And I did ask permission. I had said, I don't remember exactly the way I phrased it, but I didn't say, listen, your husband/father is standing right here. He's got something he wants to say. I didn't do it like that. I, really very gently went into it. And the mom was very uncomfortable with it, so she just got up and she excused herself. The daughter, however, really wanted to know. So that was a great way to approach it. And what he really wanted them to know was they had gone at great great lengths to honor his wishes and bury him somewhere that was a hometown that really, it was making it more inconvenient. It was like cross country from where they lived, but that's where he wanted to be buried, and he wanted to let them know he was very happy about it. So this was really a big message. But again, I was very cautious the way I handled it. So your elevator speech should not be a hook where you say, hey, listen, I've got some great information for you. Here's my business card. You want to pique their interest in what you do, and usually with divine timing and synchronicity, if it's somebody you're supposed to read, it'll work out, because that's why you've been thrown together in that elevator. Okay, so when I'm out, I have a problem with that, especially when I'm out and about. Okay, so Pamela is just saying, okay, so thank you, yeah. So again, you're exactly right. So these are just some of the things that we want to just pay attention to. So episode 3, and again, I just went through these. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm pretty much recapping everything. Hopefully I've got the right sequences. We did a reading refresher in episode 3, and we talked about some of the things that we should do to prepare ourselves for reading. And we talked about the importance of grounding. We talked about the importance of protection, cutting our cords in between each reading. So again, we're telling the person, you've got your energy, I've got mine. So we always want to be discreet about that. Once the person has left, and this is why I always like time in between my readings, like 5 minutes minimum, where the person is left, I'll center myself waiting for the next person. I just do this. I release you with love and light. I release you with love and light. And then I'll do a little prayer over my cards. If they've touched my cards, and I talked about this, I think, last week. If they've touched my cards, I'll clear the cards really quickly. If I've got some time, then I might take the decks. And remember how we clear our cards. We take the deck in our non-dominant hand. So for me, it's my left hand. I knock on it with my right hand, scroll through each card quickly, and then what I do is I fan the cards over my heart and I say a prayer that they provide the best information for my clients. Keep in mind that if somebody touches your cards, or if you start feeling like the energy just doesn't seem as it should be, if you use them quite a bit, and even though you've been the only one that's touching them, you might really want to make sure that you have cleared your cards. We've got wonderful full moon coming up. It might be a great time to take your cards and put them outside, get them infused with that full moon energy. So there's all different ways that you can really make sure that you're clear. Again, every time you're doing a reading, there's an energy exchange. So that's why cutting your cords is important. And you obviously want to do it once the person's left. It was funny because one time I was actually doing it at one of the ATP classes, and I had made the mistake of booking boom, boom, boom. So, we were all kind of sitting together, and I'm sitting and the person leaves, and I'm doing like this, and the other person comes up and kind of looks at me, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that was not discreet. So we got so much of what I'm telling you are things that I've learned because of, mistakes I've made in doing some things differently than I should have done them. So just kind of pointing out these things. So we talked about doing it. And again, with whatever course you're certified in, if there's certain things that you're unclear, it's never a bad idea to review. Take a look back. See it. See what it is. I know that I believe it's Doreen and Charles are both talking and offering the opportunity for angel intuitives to ask questions. Make sure that you're utilizing their talent and their help in what might be a question for you. So you want to go to your resources as you go on the different pages. Make sure that you reach out to your colleagues if you're having an issue with this or a question about that. So again, keeping your reading sacred, that's the most important thing. It's sacred space wherever you're going to be doing your readings. I always bring a crystal with me. Usually I'll bring a smudge spray because you can't really smudge, but you'll do a smudge of some type. Clear the energy. Maybe use a crystal wand to clear the energy. Wherever you are, make sure that your little space is very sacred. And actually, I just thought of this now. One of the things that you could do, and I always do this, like whenever I'm leaving one house to go to the other, whatever, is what I do is I go into meditation, and I picture the heart of my house, and I picture a fuchsia ball of love in that very heart. And then what I do is in meditation, I expand that fuchsia ball out. So it totally encases my home and protects my house. And that everybody that comes, and then I surround it with angels, and I ask the fairies to protect it. I pull out all the stops. But whoever comes through that bubble are somebody that feels the love, so my home is protected. That would really be a good idea. And I'm just thinking of this, so I'm going to share it with you now, because I'm sure this is my angels wanting you to know this. Wherever you're doing your reading, try that. Put a little fuchsia ball in the middle of the room, wherever, at the heart, even if you've got a little table at a psychic fair, and then just close your eyes and picture it expanding, so that this fuchsia ball is protecting everybody, certainly you, and then everybody that walks through this energy is feeling the love. And I know sometimes, especially if you're doing angel parties or if you're doing any type of psychic fairs, every once in a while you've got these people coming in that'll just be like, show me. Prove it that you know how to read people. What am I thinking? You know, that kind of thing. So what that's going to assist you in doing is attracting the very best clients. And I can honestly say that gentleman that I spoke of earlier in this broadcast that had been drinking was the only aggressive client I've ever had. And I've done it out of my home. Again, I've had people call for readings, and there's been a few times where I just sensed something in the energy that I wasn't comfortable with, and I used my intuition for that. I had a person, I'm a reconnective healer level 3, and I had a person that wanted a reconnection. So I had done the first part of the reconnection with her, and that's I believe it's $333, and that's mandated. That's what we have to charge to do a reconnection. It's mandated by Dr. Eric Pearl. So I had done step 1. It's a 2-step process, and the woman called me, and she told me she was all kinds of sick from this, and I'm thinking, okay. So I gifted her with step 1, and I told her she wasn't quite ready for step 2. Right away, all my bells and alarms went off, and I thought, this is somebody that could be a problem. So I can't emphasize enough, you are your best judge of how you should be working, who you should be working with. Just like the example, I believe it was Chris that brought up that she doesn't like doing spooky types of psychic fairs. There's nothing wrong with that. Really honor that part of yourself that's just kind of saying, okay, this isn't the right venue for you. So that's your whole idea about readings. Refresher, you want to make sure you've got your cards cleared. Allow yourself. Now for me right now, I have so many decks of cards. I'm doing readings. Most of my readings now are phone readings, video readings. What I'll do is usually about 30 minutes before I'm getting into the person's energy, and I'll decide what cards it is that they need, and then I'll select my decks accordingly. Now when you only have a few decks, that's not an issue. What I would suggest is, if you're building your library of decks, to get at least one deck for each type of information that you might want. So what I mean by that is, even if you're not a fairyologist, you might still find that you would enjoy a fairy deck. And because of the whole idea of the realms and how you can identify fairy, elemental energy, I will say, oh my gosh, I've got somebody coming, it's a fairy, I know, she's a fairy, he's a fairy, so I'll get out, I'll make sure I have a fairy deck. The same thing if you feel like you've got a woman coming in that's trying to stay in her power, this and that, and you'll get good at this. And it's all about you trusting what you're getting. Then you're going to have your goddess deck out. So that would be a deck I would recommend. An angel deck, regardless of what venue you're really comfortable teaching. Now, this doesn't mean if you're a fairyologist that you're not principally going to be doing that, but it'll just give you a more well-rounded choice as you're building. And what's wonderful is if you can get to the these new age stores where they'll actually have the decks open, and you can actually look at the decks, get a feel for the decks. So I always say your first is your favorite, which is my favorite, and then what you do is you go and really get the decks that appeal to you, and those become your tool. It's like your first aid kit. And again, if you are a healer, Reiki master, like with reconnective healing, sometimes what I would do, especially when I was doing Reiki and I would work on that things would come through. So I learned that if I was doing a Reiki session, I would ask permission beforehand. If I get information, should I share it? And then maybe price accordingly, where not only it would be a Reiki treatment, but also a reading. So just again, you would make sure that you're being compensated. And again, just remember, you deserve it. You paid for your certifications. You're paying for your cards. Whatever time that you're spending is your money, so to speak. So there's nothing wrong with getting exactly what it is that what you deserve. Okay, so hello. Info about, no, again, Jan, I'm not doing readings. Pamela's saying that she smacks the edge of her cards on the table between readings. Okay, let's see. Okay, Chris, good. I'm glad this is helping. Okay, so I know a few new people have joined. I'm seeing you come in, and I love seeing all these hearts floating across. So thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to have you here. I am Susan Dintino, aka Coach Susan, and once a week I do Facebook Lives, 12 noon Eastern Time, on the CACR page. Everybody is welcome to join. So I know that we have been talking to the fairyologists and angel intuitives, and also a whole new class of CACR. So welcome one and all. As soon as I'm done with this video, I get it up on my YouTube station. All I do is take time to download. I have a very active website, and it's my name, SusanDintino.com. So there you can find my products. I have downloads for meditations, and one of the meditations that I've done, I have it in a CD, but I also have it in a download. It's called Invocation of the Archangels, and it's a 9-minute meditation. I actually channeled it in Kona, Hawaii, one of the times I was working angel therapy practitioner. It is a great tool to use right before you're going to do readings. It calls in all the angels, all the archangels. It's a 9-minute meditation. So really, I recommend that again. I know it's a little plug, but it really does work great. I very much channeled it, and that was the message I was given, that this is something that's great for somebody that's doing readings. It's a wonderful way to start your day, just to bring your heavy-hitting angels in with you. But that's called Invocation of the Archangels, and I actually sat on the black rocks in Kona, and the water. We tried to get a semblance of the water sound in there, but there's a water sound in the background that was really very close to what I was hearing when I was channeling it. So all of my products are available. My radio show, The Night Shift, is every Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and I do new moon and full moon broadcasts, which really highlight the energy, the astrological sign. I recommend an essence, a flower, an angel, a crystal. So it's a really fun way. And I do readings during my radio show and those moon broadcasts. So just also I teach workshops and my book, Songs of My Life Slightly Out of Tune. I've self-published a children's book, A Year of Me. And I think that's about it. So enough about me. I just wanted to introduce myself to the new people that are joining. So we are now, let's talk a little bit about marketing. Okay, I've covered marketing in a couple different ways. We talked about social media and Facebook. And again, these are all very distinctly listed in this episode guide. So all of the ins and outs. Plus, I gave you some really good links to check out some of the ways to do it. What I discovered in my research doing this whole series that I've been doing is WikiHow, and it's WIKI how, and that really they have pictures and everything else that will show you exactly how to do so many things. Setting up a Facebook page, setting up a Twitter account. All of these social media tools are things you really want to utilize. All of these things are something that you want to just get yourself out there. I've had this question come up. I believe websites are important. That being said, websites can sometimes be an expense that you don't have in the beginning. And the business cards, although those are an expense, even though those you can do for free usually, those are essential. But something like a website, maybe you have to hold off a little bit. You want it professionally done. But a Facebook page, fan page, you can get up right away. So we talked about the differences between a friend page, a fan page, all the details about how to create that. We also did an episode on building a website and the servers that are recommended, or the servers that you should explore, I guess would be better to say, because I really stay away from recommendations only because I know what I use and what works for me, but I'm not somebody that has a vast knowledge. But I will tell you, if you Google, and Google can be your best friend, you know how is GoDaddy as a server, and you look at the complaints and you look at the people that positively reviewed it. Use that computer that you have that you can just really get your information that way. So social marketing websites go into detail in the episodes, so check those out, because those will give you a lot of insight as to how to build both viable tools. If you have to choose one over the other, I would recommend that you start with a Facebook page to get your information up as soon as possible. As we started talking about Facebook pages, we talked about people doing a one card pull a day, which is wonderful to get that information. Let everybody know that this is the card that really speaks to you and is also speaking for them. There's something from that card, a message that they have. However, as we discussed it, we found that many people are having a lot more interaction if they put 3 cards face down and ask people to pick a card, and then within a reasonable length of time you do a reading based on what cards they picked. So quite a few of you really said that worked great for them. So you might want to consider doing that. We talked about creating memes. The animation to use, Lumyer, Lumyer, is an app that I've used, and really right now I have to say they're going through some issues. I paid for the premium package and for some reason I'm not getting it anymore, and they said they've got some updates going. But for just because of that, I think I would caution you right now about paying. I know you want to make sure you get rid of the watermark, and this will all make sense if you explore it. It's Lumyer. But any of those memes that I do that are animated, that's what I use. It's an app for a phone and an iPad. So it's not something you use on a computer. But like I said, all of a sudden now I paid for the premium package, I'm being charged. So that would be my only, kind of caution about that. But we talked about that and about how you can really get a message out there with posting that. And anybody that's trying to get recognized about getting a book published, anything like that, the fan pages are what the publishers are looking for. So let me just pause here. Let's see if we have any other questions. Yeah, Chris is saying that she keeps a deck specifically for psychic fairs in case they insist on touching the cards. That's a great idea. Can you help us with IR? Let me see, that just went up. Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm just kind of scrolling through here. I think I passed, let's see. Jennifer is saying, have you ever felt bad for charging? I think that because from the very beginning, when I was doing readings, I was certified as an angel therapy practitioner. And at that time, we went for a week. It was called Angel Camp. And we went for a week. And it was in 2004 2004, I believe I took Angel Camp, and then I think I started staffing in 2005. I think those are the years. I could be off by a year, but when we had to charge and have that first professional reading, I really got the idea that you should be paid for what you do. Now, prior to taking that certification course, I was doing readings that were very amateur, in that I had a deck that I used that had a really detailed book, and I would literally pick the card for the person and then read for the book. So, from the book rather. So those, if I charged it all, it was minimum. Most of those were like barter situations where they were doing something for me and I would do something for them, that kind of thing. Once I became certified, and I really looked at it as such an energy thing and knew what I had put into to be certified, all the things that I was buying, the books I was buying, the cards that I was buying, I felt much better about it. I think because it's spiritual work, there's that little, feeling like, wow, should we be charging? So I understand it, but I will say, get over it, because you deserve it. And the big thing is, as you get, like, you will hear of people that charge as much as $1,000, these people, but see, they're in demand. And I'm sure, I have always talked to my angels when it's time for a raise, and I have listened to them. So that's what I would say about charging. Charge what you feel comfortable doing. I know when I was making a per minute charge on one of the psychic call-in stations, there was something about it. I loved it when we could set our own prices. I really liked it. Once we started getting up there in the per minute, I wasn't comfortable with it, and I found that I talked really fast, and that the people that I attracted took quick readings, because to me that seemed a bit excessive, and maybe because of that feeling, that's why I got the short readings. But definitely being paid is essential. So I get it, but Jennifer, let it go. Jackie is saying, I don't really like reading for friends and family. I actually quit doing because I would get asked all the time. Yeah, Jackie, I found the same thing. As a matter of fact, I was going to somebody that I really enjoyed for massage, and it started turning into that while she's massaging me, she would be asking me these questions. And I was still paying for my massages. So in the beginning, I kind of went along with it. She seemed like a nice lady. Then one time I had a stomach flu, very sick with it, and she actually called me on the phone and asked me for a hit about a gentleman she was dating, and I never went back for a massage. I think family and friends, it's difficult because you're exactly right. People can call. What I have learned to do with friends that might have, been like that is, unless I'm really up for it, I will just tell them I'm not in a place right now to do that. And I really will once in a while help out. But I go to my gut if it's something that I should do. Family, I think, is a whole other thing. My kids, for the most part, don't believe anything I say. So I don't really do readings for my family. So that's really not too big of a concern. But friends, definitely, I can see what you're saying. And you will have those people that will take advantage. So boundaries. Talking about your reading refresher, remember the importance of boundaries and having yourself protected, so that you just know that, yes, I'm going to do this, no, I'm not going to do this, and allow yourself that luxury to decide, because it's happened to me, and I've just learned that, especially there was another person that had started becoming, and we're really good friends, so I just kind of eased out of it and just kind of said, you know what, this isn't a really good time for me. I'd be happy to do a reading for you if you want to book a reading. And that's what I would do. I never just kind of do it lightheartedly. The few times that we did it, we did a barter exchange. And then it was almost like, okay, I get it. And even though, there were times when I really felt the need to help, and I did, but there were other times I felt it was pushing the envelope. And so I think we were just close enough that just with the little innuendos, my friend got it, and it's been fine ever since. So that's the way I handle this. Any advice for doing readings for people that have a wall? Yeah, Patty, those are the people I know that especially when we talk about going to something like a psychic fair or a party of any kind, where you will have people that are really just asking you to prove your talents to them. And this is really where you need to tell your ego to get out of the way, because this is just what your ego's been waiting for, to tell you that, oh my gosh, let's see if you can do it now, and what if you're wrong or whatever. This comes with experience, feeling comfortable in these situations. And I will be honest with you, when I sense that, it's almost like I'll see a knight in armor. That's what I see when these people come in. And what I do is I just say, often when I'm doing readings, I will close my eyes, especially if I'm channeling a lot of information. So what I'll do is I usually will join hands with the person I'm reading if they're comfortable with. And I connect very much on an energetic level with the people at that time. So I'll join hands with them, I close my eyes, and I'll just say a little prayer that I get them the most important information that they could really use, or I get them information they can use. And after that, usually it's just even with the hand holding, you'll begin to feel that block. But again, there are some people that aren't comfortable with that. I always ask permission. Do you mind if I hold your hand? Just like I always hug my clients on the way out, but I ask their permission. Do you mind if I hug you? Because some people, you know, it's not what they enjoy, or they feel that's a personal boundary. So you always want to ask. And what will happen is I will just ask for that information, and usually I will get something. Well, all the time I've gotten something that'll put a chink in that armor. And I'll just get a snippet. And I remember in particular, there was one woman, and I swear to God, not only did she have armor on, it was like she was in a block of steel. And she had been brought, and she was just, prove it. And I'm looking at her, and Mother Mary comes in, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe this woman, you know, does anything with Mother Mary, because she certainly didn't seem that energy. But I thought, I'm going for it. And I said, do you work with Mother Mary? Oh my gosh, everything fell away. The block, the armor, everything. And she said the rosary all the time. So this is where you have to trust and just look for that little chink. Again, before you're doing anything, you set an intention that only the best clients are going to come to you that you can be of assistance for. But we all face those clients, and what you do is you have to get your ego out of the way and keep in mind, you're just a messenger. That person is there for a reason. It's got nothing to do with you being right or wrong. You're there to give them a message. So even if they walk away and they seem that they weren't satisfied, be assured that you said something or did something that they needed, and just trust that. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there. So, good question there, Patty. I know I'm jumping around here. Can you help us with IRS information? You know what, Patty? I'm going to put that IRS, I think you're talking about tax. I'm not even going to attempt to say anything about that. I will make a note of that, and I will address that in one of the future when I can research that a little bit. I can tell you personally, for me, I keep track of everything. I know there's sometimes people laugh because they say you're in a cash business, but I do. My daughter and I work together. We put A Year of Me out together. I wrote the book. That's my children's book, and she did the illustrations. And we started a business called Wishes and Dreams, LLC. So because of that, all of my work goes through Wishes and Dreams. So I tell her every time I do a reading, especially if I'm not doing it, like if you do it out of a store, they'll usually give you a 1099, and they should give you a 1099 if you have any kind of split with them. And what I'm pretty sure it's a 1099 now. Hopefully I'm saying this right. What that means is that they're keeping track of your income. They're not taking any taxes out of it. It's up to you. And then you submit that 1099 at the end of the year. If they're not, you have to keep track of your earnings, because that money coming to you obviously isn't being taxed. So you have to make sure that you're keeping track. And like I said with me, every time I do a reading, I send how much I made. If it came through PayPal, I let my daughter know that. If it came through a check, I give her the information from the check number, the amount, what it was for, and the person's name. And she keeps track of everything. At the end of the year, I submit it in my taxes as you're supposed to. So I hope that helps. If there's something more specific that you're looking for, because that's very very important information and it's very official information, I would almost suggest that you check with whoever it is that does your taxes and tell them what it is that you do. And if you do your own taxes, then I know there's probably resources that are available. If I can find out any additional information that I think will be useful, I'll definitely let you know, but that's been my experience. Okay, Marlene is asking me if I use a tripod. I'm assuming you're talking about this. What I have right now is one of these things that's hooked onto my desk. I have a tripod downstairs I've never used. This just works out better for me. I'm always playing with it to make sure I'm making eye contact, so hopefully I am. But it's this thing that you just hook on your desk and it's like all kinds of bendy. I got it on Amazon.com and it was very affordable. And you just put, I'm using an iPad, you just put it in there and you can kind of bend it. And then what the challenge is to somehow find a spot to look at that you're making eye contact with your audience. And it seems to me that it's always shifting. But so I do know some of my colleagues that do this do use those standing things. The thing that I find best is if it's a little bit higher. It makes the vantage point a little bit better. But that's what I'm using. And I don't know what it's called. But if, again, you look wherever they sell these things, I'm sure you'll see it. It's like I say, something you just stick on your desk and hold. Yeah, see, Claire is saying one card sharing for 6 months has attracted my tribe. Hard work paying off. Great, Claire. Thanks for sharing that. Okay. You know, Chris, that's a good, like you said about your dog's been sick, you haven't spent much time there. That's not a bad idea to post on your fan page. People are so compassionate and empathetic when it comes to something like that. I know recently I sent out an email, and email marketing is another thing that we covered. And I talked about how I hadn't sent out an email in so long because of the personal challenges I was going through, which was principally the loss of my husband. So I really did talk about that, and I got such favorable responses. So I don't think it's a bad idea. I think when we're in this work and with the way social media goes out to so many people, I think it really is very important that we watch what we say. You know, I stay away from politics. People can probably assume what my belief is, but I don't get involved. You're not going to change anybody's mind on Facebook, so I don't get involved. So I would say sharing something like that, you always want to make sure that you're giving enough without giving too much. So I don't think that's a bad idea. And I cannot believe my little clock just went out that it's been an hour already. So I have covered everything that we have covered in the last, ending with email marketing, which we covered last week. Again, everything is up, and this will be as well on my YouTube station. Now, I won't be live next week as I'm going to be traveling. I'm really excited about this. I'm taking this road trip, and I'm actually going to be driving from here back to Buffalo. So the next time I'll be broadcasting out of Buffalo, New York. But I really would be interested in what topics you would like to see me cover. So I'm going to be posting, hopefully, probably not until next week. I'll do it once I get back, and I'll put up something. Let me know what some things are that you would like to have me discuss. The one thing I want to talk about really fast, I keep forgetting this. I did a whole show called On the Radio, and we talked about having a radio show. The one thing that I didn't mention that I really did want to mention is you can use this as a tool to bring sponsors in, and not only maybe make some money for yourself, but if you're paying for your radio show, you can help offset the cost. So some people that have got really popular shows, sponsors will be attracted. You can reach out. Remember, if you have a guest on your show, you're giving them the opportunity to promote their products. So often what I'll do is after the guest has been on the show, I will reach out to them and ask them if they'd like to be a sponsor. And again, I make it very affordable, and I'll give them a shout out like like maybe for $25 on the show, I'll promote their product. So I had forgot to mention that when we talk about on the radio, so I wanted to make sure I covered that today. So I will miss you next week, but I will be back the following week, and I'll put plenty of promotion on the CACR page. Thank you so much for joining me, and all of your questions. The ones that I didn't get to, I apologize. I do my best scrolling, and I'm really trusting that all of you listening are really taking something away from this. I can tell you, reviewing all of these things is really, really teaching me a great deal as well, because I feel like when you teach, you learn, and when you learn, you teach. So I leave that with you. I want to remind you all, I always use this as the goodbye on my radio show, that life is a journey. Enjoy the ride. Take care, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye now.